I did everything right. I learned how to use the tools, I followed the rules, or at least I learned how to do so. By all metrics, I did everything correctly. Yet I never felt like I could be myself, nor did I feel safe. It's often wondered why people like me even bother, but it shouldn't come as a surprise either that there are many gay and queer individuals leaving the industry, but no one's really asking why. Some of you may remember a video I did relatively recently where we talked about something similar, and that video you could check out over here. And the answer is yes. Everyone's opinion is valued and necessary for innovation and progression of certain industries. The industries that fail to adapt usually are the ones that get forgotten, or they have a tendency to just kind of become less relevant. I wanted to go even further into this topic. I made the drastic mistake of turning off comments on my last video, and what that did was prove every naysayer, every person who had an opinion different than mine, correct. To quote Mother Anastasia from The Acolyte, which is one of my favorite shows, not sponsored or anything, just want to use this quote, but she says, "This isn't about good or evil. This is about power and who's allowed to use it." I think it's a travesty that a lot of the time we as individuals have an idea of how something should be without taking anything into account in regards to our surroundings. We just acknowledge that something has been a certain way for so long that it doesn't need to change. Sorry, the ice maker's a little loud. I just got distracted a little bit. But something I noticed is that as we continue to talk about these things, regardless of how I feel, comments are going to come and go in various shapes, forms, positive, negative, and everything else in between. And if you can see some of these comments around, it's no surprise that these people are finding what I am saying slightly offensive. Why? I've got a couple good reasons, or guesses at least. One, I'm calling a spade a spade. I'm addressing the elephant in the room. It's interesting to me because there was a guy I used to work with named Aaron, and he was one of the few people of color on the job sites I would work at. And I had the privilege of working with him, one of the most diligent, hardworking individuals I have ever met. But one of the things that I learned over time was that he put up with so much and didn't have to. We oftentimes put ourselves in situations that we feel like we can take control of just to be proved wrong. Something that happens in any large business is when you are dealing with any form of harassment, if you paint the company in a bad enough light, even if it's easier to either ignore it, terminate you, or punish both of you. Even though that is incorrect, I think those are incredibly dangerous ways to think. The reason why is because it's 2025, and it's not because people are getting soft. If that is your only argument, you really should look in the mirror and see if you're the person that makes the others around you feel like they can't be themselves, or they feel like they just can't acknowledge you. The excuse of being thick-skinned in the industry is widely known, and for good reason. When people like Aaron and I are forced to leave, shouldn't say Aaron in this case because he still works for that company, but when things like this happen, you're pushing out not only the future generations of workers and tradesmen, you're also pushing out the opportunity to innovate and change people's opinions. And the unfortunate side effect of all of this is that we cannot agree to work together to help our industry. As anyone has noticed recently, especially if they've remodeled their home, or it doesn't matter if you're a contractor who owns their own business, and it doesn't matter if you're a weekend warrior trying to finish a project. Anything from siding to doing your own flooring. We have witnessed delays, and it's not just COVID's fault. But the other thing you've noticed is that there's not enough people to do the work, which has led to further delays. Between getting siding or flooring, or anything else for that matter, sometimes it takes weeks, sometimes it could take even months. Often is the case that with that is a delay in also being able to facilitate an installation of that material. And once it does get installed, that leaves the consumer with a higher bill. Innovation is the blood force of what drives this. But when you push people out, the lack of diversity, the lack of equity, the lack of inclusion, a lot of these things have really bad names to them because certain people think of them a certain way. When you have a diverse background of people, it doesn't matter if it's generational, it doesn't matter if it's racial, ethnically, or if it's someone's sexual orientation. Perspective is everything. And that can really bring some great value to the table and help you develop new strategies to complete your tasks. One of the unfortunate things that, and I've talked about this before, but there was a DEI lunch that I attended, and it was supposed to be a place where we discussed the ideas of how to come together and progress. Unfortunately, the entire time, the conversations left me wanting more because they were just about how to be a decent human being. While that is worthwhile, and I think those are important conversations to have, I also believe with every fiber of my being that if you are to address the elephant in the room on how to be respectful, it doesn't need to come down to anything as dramatic on how to treat one another as much as it comes down to trust. If I trust you, you trust me. If that reciprocal relationship continues, it leads to productivity increases, it leads to new decisions, it leads to new ways of doing things, and not to mention increased productivity. One of the things that has left me absolutely astounded is our inability to innovate because we're not willing to change the environment or the culture. If that DEI lunch that I had attended had been productive, it could have looked something like this. A group of people attending a training, learning how to interact with different cultures, different backgrounds, different circumstances, instead of being punished for calling somebody out, right? It should be a place where you go to learn on how to agree to disagree with a smile on your face, get back to work, and do your job. But you know what? That's exactly what we're going to talk about. There are 3 videos that I'm wanting to put out on this kind of overarching topic, and it's going to be a 3-part series. But what we're going to talk about next time is innovation and how we can do so effectively. These are things I've talked about before, but I'm not just going to talk about the need to innovate with technology. No. It's deeper than that. But I think this video has gone on long enough. Put your thoughts down in the comments. Be respectful. I truly want to hear it. Even if I do not personally respond, I hope somebody does. I really want to see what people's thoughts are in the industry, because believe it or not, the industry is dying and we need young people. We need the LGBT community. We need women. We need artificial intelligence. We need synthesized ways of doing things because there's just not enough workers to get the job done. And I think we've procrastinated long enough. But what do you guys think? Let me know. And until next time, this has been my coffee corner, and I'll catch you on the next one.